Maybe today you've been in this waiting period for so long and the darkness has become so normal for you that you have just come to think that God doesn't care about you. But I want to remind you of some very powerful, encouraging, and important words. When it feels like you are waiting in the darkness, remember that God is right on time. And I'm using a little play on words there. The birth of Jesus is the ultimate reminder that God's timing is always perfect, even when his timing doesn't align with ours, right? And I don't know about you, but it seems like God and I are never in the same time zone. Like his calendar never aligns with mine. God, I expected you to do this yesterday. What's going on here? Why aren't you moving yet? Why aren't you doing something yet? But God is always right on time, meaning that he is never early, although sometimes I wish he was. He is also never late. He is never wrong. In regards to his timing, God is always right. The people of Israel waited hundreds of years for the Messiah to come. And during that time, many of them probably wondered if God had forgotten the promise that he had made to them. Maybe they wondered if God had changed his mind and now he had something else in store for them and he's failed to share that with them yet. Some might have thought that they just misunderstood God. Okay, well, I thought this is what God promised to do for me, but it's been so long now and he's not done anything. Maybe I misunderstood what he said, what he actually promised. And sometimes when we're waiting on God's promises to be fulfilled in our own lives, we can think very similar things. Maybe you think this morning that God has forgotten about you. Because if God really knew and had remembered what you're going through, surely he would have done something by now. Maybe some of you feel this morning that God got distracted. It's like he was on his way to move in your circumstances, to do something about your situation, and then somebody over there prayed another prayer that caught his attention. And now he's just forgotten about you. He's off doing something for someone else. Or maybe today you've been in this waiting period for so long and the darkness has become so normal for you that you have just come to think that God doesn't care about you, that your situation is not important to him, that what you're going through doesn't mean as much to him as what so-and-so over there is going through. But I want to remind you of some very powerful, encouraging, and important words from Galatians chapter 4, verse 4. That when the right time came, God sent his son, born of a woman, subject to the law. God didn't send Jesus at some random moment in history. It wasn't like God was sitting around and decided, well, I did promise these guys I would do this 700 years ago. I guess now's as good a time as any. Why wait another 100 years? It wasn't like he had to pick a time, he had to pick a generation. And so he flipped a coin or, he decided on some angels to pull straws. God sent Jesus at the exact right moment in history. Not the moment they thought was right, but the moment God knew was right. This teaches us that God is never wrong when it comes to his timing. His promises are fulfilled at the exact right moment, even when it feels like we've been waiting forever and the fulfillment of that promise may not ever come. So while you wait for God's promises to be fulfilled in your life, trust that his timing is perfect. Just as he knew the right moment to send Jesus into the world, he knows the right moment to send whatever you need into your world at just the right time. So let's go back to Shelton's Lake. Because as you can tell, I made it through that situation. But I didn't think I was in the moment. In fact, the last time I pushed off, I didn't quite get above the water and was choking and, trying to tread water with my sister on my shoulders and seeing that my mom was still yards away from us with no help of rescuing us. All of a sudden, I felt the weight of my sister be yanked off of me and a hand that felt like it had to be 3 feet long pushed the small of my back and pushed me towards the dock, where I literally only had to take one stroke to get to the ladder and climb out of the water. Because unbeknownst to me, there was an off-duty police officer who was hanging out at the dock playing with his own kids and just happened to see the dire circumstances that my sister and I were facing. And he rescued us at just the right time. At just the right time. It wasn't early, although, again, I wouldn't have minded if it would have been a few bounces earlier. And thank the Lord it wasn't too late. God moved at just the right time to give us exactly what we needed in the moment that we needed it. When it feels like God's promises are delayed, remind yourself that God is always, without exception, right on time. And that he's working all things together for your good, just like he promised in his word he would. Amen.